One proposed method of improving outcomes after TBI is through physical exercise, okay, which has been shown, okay, to contribute positively towards both cognitive functioning and mood after injury. Yet despite these benefits, this research area is really still in its infancy, and more studies are needed to understand the specific application of exercise for rehabilitation after TBI and the ways in which it can help improve people's lives. And although various forms of physical activity demonstrate the potential to improve outcomes after traumatic brain injury, the problem is that individuals face an elevated number of physical activity barriers and also report inadequate levels of physical activity for general health benefits. For instance, 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise a week. And it's been established that the community timeframe is particularly relevant based on the types of transitional difficulties that people face when leaving the clinical setting. So most individuals who experience moderate to severe TBI will be admitted to the hospital following their injury. They're most often more in a coma when they arrive to the hospital, and that is like the initial kind of measuring of the severities with the Glasgow Coma Scale. And then they process through, or they go through a series of phases in this continuum of care, which usually involves a stay at the hospital, followed by inpatient rehabilitation, followed by outpatient rehabilitation. And this extended recovery process typically goes up to 2 years in time, okay, depending on the severity, but can go up to 2 years in time. And it's at that final phase when people are transitioning back into the community when there is a particular need for more support when it comes to these types of physical activities and engaging in the community, because there's certainly a big drop off of services, okay? And there are also a significant decrease in PA levels, okay, at this specific time, okay? Now, one of the last studies quoted in this last bullet point here is a study that I published for my master's research at McGill and in adaptive physical activity. And this is really what led to the development of the initiative, okay, which was developing a peer-based community physical activity program to help individuals, adults with moderate to severe TBI, to be more physically active in this particular context. So that's why I developed the program in partnership with the YMCAs of Quebec and the Quebec TBI Association, and essentially became the focus of my PhD for the next 4 years, okay? But I'm gonna get back to that a little bit later. I wanna speak to the ways in which peers can be incredibly helpful in this context as well. And one method of promoting health is with support from peers. And promising evidence for peer-based interventions has been identified for quality of life, as well as community integration, mood, and self-efficacy after traumatic brain injury. However, and similar to the use of physical activity after TBI, a lot more research is needed in this area to standardize the key intervention characteristics that can assist with the global adoption of peer support as a formal evidence-based type of practice, okay, to assist with recovery after TBI. Therefore, the research objectives of my doctoral studies were to map the literature, okay, about community-based physical activity interventions for adults with moderate to severe traumatic brain injury, as well as their characteristics and outcomes. Explore the experiences of program mentors, participants, and employees that were involved in that peer-based physical activity program that was developed and being piloted in the community through the YMCAs and the Quebec TBI Association. Provide an interpretive account of the participatory co-creation of an optimized version of that peer-based physical activity program for exercise and sport participation. So this is where the participatory and co-creation piece came in, and that was the third study of my PhD. And the fourth study was conducting a needs analysis about the impact of COVID-19 and losing access to the TBI health program to help support their physical activity behaviors in the context of a pandemic. So I'm frequently going to refer to this roadmap to assist with the delivery of the presentation. Study one was a scoping review, and it was carried out for my comprehensive exams that I began working on at the beginning of my PhD in 2018. In order to map and synthesize the literature, we followed PRISMA scoping review guidelines, the step-by-step guidelines from Mark and O'Malley with enhancements from Levac and colleagues. Searches were conducted in 6 academic databases for peer-reviewed studies listed above. 2 independent reviewers used a modified CERT template, consensus on exercise reporting template, to extract the data from the studies. And we classified those health-related outcomes according to domains from the International Classification of Functional Disability and Health. 2,633 references were initially imported for screening. After duplicates were removed, records were screened, and full text articles were assessed. We retained 19 studies at the very end. And here's a PRISMA flowchart. The average CERT scores, okay, so the consensus for exercise reporting template varied, okay. The average score was 12.74 on 19, or out of 19, with a standard deviation of 3.51, which was disappointing because it provided limited detail for replication. And the outcomes, they really focus primarily on body functions and less on activities and participation or environmental factors, okay? So the literature out there about community-based physical activity programs for adults with moderate severe TBI, we're focusing a lot more on these body functions than anything else. Interestingly, only 4 of the studies stratified the results by sex and or gender in such a way that you could identify differences that may exist between male or female participants. And furthermore, our consultation with stakeholders emphasized the value of the non-physical activities that can be involved with these type of community-based physical activity interventions, and provided us with a number of knowledge translation strategies that could help disseminate knowledge from this scoping review, including infographics, lay summaries, and audio-visual products. Happy to share any of those. If people are interested, please just contact me about that. The review identified common physical activity characteristics leading to improved outcomes after TBI. And based on our findings, future studies would definitely benefit from better reporting for replication and research outcomes, as well as our syntheses and recommendations that aim to really improve future research and practice about community-based physical activity after TBI. So this really kind of set the stage for the other studies that followed. And if anyone's interested to learn more about that scoping review, please refer to the article that was published in Brain Injury about it, which is shown here. So the second study was the first independent study conducted in my dissertation. It was carried out at the end of 2018. Now, I'm now going to begin referring to the context of the TBI Health Program. This is the pilot program that I developed in partnership with the YMCA's of Quebec and the Quebec TBI Association that initially began in 2017. And I think that this context does a really great job of showing the development of that program, the different iterations, and how it relates to the studies that were involved. So study 2 was the exploration of the second cohort of the program that was, again, being piloted in the community. And it was done at the end of the year, shortly after the participants were involved in this YMCA indoor triathlon. So in a nutshell, the program itself followed 3 broad phases. Phase 1 really focused on learning how to train and exercise safely and efficiently. Phase 2 of the program, which was each phase was approximately 3 months. Phase 2 of the program focused on learning how to become more autonomous and independent with your own physical activities and following individual exercise program in the gym and integrating with the larger gym community at that YMCA. And phase 3 of the program focused on training for and participating in a sport challenge. And as you can see, the first 2 cohorts of the program in 2017 and 2018, the program, like the sport challenge, was this YMCA triathlon. It was carried out in an indoor setting at that downtown YMCA where the program was run, the largest YMCA in downtown Montreal. And it was a tremendous success year after year. The participants exceeded everyone's expectations. But unfortunately, it was a little too cost intense for the YMCA to maintain in terms of resources. As you can imagine, organizing a large indoor triathlon with members and people in the program. So we, on the 3rd iteration of the program, we went out of the YMCA and all the participants were involved with a 5-kilometer race. It was a mountain equipment co-op, a community race in an outdoor context, which was really interesting. Anyways, so study 2 focused on the 2018 cohort, which was again a pilot project. And we collected data at the end of that year, and after all the participants were involved in this indoor triathlon, okay, which was a big success. And the reason for doing this was to explore the experiences of the program mentors, the program participants, and the program employees, so the staff at the YMCA who were involved with providing the program. We took an exploratory case study approach, and we did so through an interpretive lens or an interpretive paradigm to discover the realities about the program across the participants, mentors, and employees, across their different perceptions. Okay, so it was a really unique kind of exploration to kick things off. We recruited a convenient sample of 12 participants, okay, including 9 adults with moderate to severe TBI and 3 adult YMCA employees, okay. We collected the data through semi-structured focus groups and individual interviews, and we analyzed the data through an inductive content analysis. Three final themes were identified, representing 10 sub-themes and 44 open codes. Program impacts included psychological outcomes of the program, importance of the program in daily life, social outcomes of the program, and physical outcomes of the program. Program characteristics included sub-themes such as role of program leaders, accessibility of the program, social inclusion in the program. And the higher order theme program sustainability included adherence to the program, benefits of the program for the center, and future of the adapted program. Within the program impacts theme, a participant discussed how he finally stopped taking antidepressants. In 2005 was the year of his accident, so he had tried to stop in 2007, 2 years later, but hadn't succeeded. Another participant in the program characteristics theme discussed how it's the comments I get from members when they tell me it's contagious, that energy of yours, and sort of encouraging and stimulating. And I want to just remind everyone that this group of people involved in this adaptive program was training beside people from all walks of life in that large community YMCA center. So it was really an inclusive program to see, and it was an opportunity for these participants who had otherwise been involved with a lot of activities through the TBI Association to be involved in a different kind of context in a large center in a downtown setting with people from all walks of life. Within the program sustainability theme, one of the employees discussed how you must turn to the research community to give more credibility to the program and verify whether it's really making an impact. Study 2's findings identified the key program components and outcome measures and emphasized the need for incorporating theory into the future development of this program. As such, the behavior change wheel was chosen to assist with the production of the program manual in the subsequent study, which I'm going to discuss shortly. And we did so through an interpersonal approach that was informed by self-determination theory. So study 3 was the second independent study of my dissertation. It was carried out in 2019. Over the course of the provision of that program and in partnership with the people who were participating in the program. So that year, we expanded the program partnered with the users to co-create the formal version of it. We also condensed the program down to 9 months from 12, because the previous 2 years, it had been a 12-month program. And we onboarded a female mentor who assisted with recruiting more female participants. At the very outset, I believe we began and we had one female participant in the first cohort, the first pilot project. We had a couple more in the second, and then it was identified that we really need to have more representation from female participants. And so one of the strategies that we undertook was onboarding a female mentor from one of the previous cohorts. And when we were recruiting and speaking about the next iteration of the program, we certainly got the word out, and there was certainly a lot more buy-in from female participants. So it increased the spread, right? I believe we had 7 female participants in that third cohort of the program. And it made almost like a 50-50 spread, because there were about, I believe there were 9 male and 7 female participants who completed that 2019 iteration of the program. So that's the one I'm going to focus on now. And to provide an interpretive account of this co-creation and participation process in the program, we used an interpretive case study approach across the 3 phases of this 9-month program to include an in-depth collection of multiple sources of evidence in this real-life context setting, okay? So we recruited a purposeful sample of 14 participants, including 10 program participants and 4 mentors. Over the course of the 9 months, we included 6 focus groups with the participants and 9 participatory work groups with the program mentors, and ongoing field note observations across the bi-weekly sessions, which were carried out by myself. And we carried out a reflexive thematic analysis within and across the program phases. So my mistake, 6 female and 4 male participants and 3 male and 1 female mentor. So I guess, yeah, that comes up to what I said before. Here is another diagram that does a better job of explaining all the data we collected. The working groups with the mentors occurred at the end of each month. So you have those in the middle here. The 3, they were spread out approximately 1 month apart. And I remind you that each program phase consisted of 3 months. So we had the 3 work groups with the mentors who were helping us define the program manual. And then at the end of each 3-month phase, we had a focus group with the mentors and the participants to really identify what had come about through those 3 months, what was going well, what needed to be improved. And there were my ongoing field notes and program manual development throughout the 9-month 3-phase program. I provided 72 of the 75 sessions that were provided over that 9-month period. I only missed 3, and it's because I took a little vacation in August to do a little road trip. And this integrated knowledge transfer approach, okay, that we took allowed us to adapt the program with the participants as they were actively participating in the program and benefiting from it. So I'm incredibly proud of what we did and how we partnered with all the people involved, and were able to mold and modify the program as it was subsequently being provided and delivered to all the participants involved. Just a tremendous success. And 3 higher order themes that were generated from these inter-analyses across the program phases, so the 3 program phases, and the 10 sub-themes developed from the intra-analyses within the program phases, and the initial 123 codes, okay? So just going back here, we analyzed the data from each end of phase, okay, before we started going across and doing this inter-analysis that allowed us to start identifying how things were changing from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. And it was incredibly interesting because we were able to identify the changes that were occurring in these participants as they were being involved in this large collaborative initiative. And And the higher order themes like program participation included program barriers, program facilitators, program motivation, and program modifications. The biopsychosocial changes included the cognitive outcomes, the physical outcomes, the psychological outcomes, and the social outcomes of participating. And the physical activity autonomy higher order theme included the physical activity capability and the sex and gender considerations that were involved. Within the program participation theme, one participant discussed how it's motivating to see people like us with traumatic brain injuries who are empowered to do more. Within the biopsychosocial benefits theme, one participant explained, when I walk, I have more confidence in myself because I'm more stable, I lose my balance less. And within the physical activity autonomy theme, another participant explained how I realize that I have more autonomy in my training. I know more where I'm going, so I can do more things and I can adapt them. The major findings in study 3 included these transitions in physical activity autonomy and how this facilitated their physical activity participation. It identified the facilitators and barriers to physical activity that were key to adapting the program and creating the program manual. And evidence of the outcomes corroborated the findings from study 2. So a lot of the outcomes from the program were corroborated from the previous study where people were speaking about biopsychosocial, benefits of being involved. And also it made suggestions, because we did this across the 9-month phase, and we had the inter-analysis before they did the intra-analyses across program phases. It gave us it made a lot of suggestions about the timing and the exposure to different types of physical activity. Now, I'll just give you an example. People didn't start speaking about cognitive improvements until the second phase of the program. So that was after the 3-month mark, which makes implications about the time of the type of time and dose effect that can occur, or where or how these types of benefits can be obtained for this population. And this was leading up to an even larger cohort that we were developing for 2020. We were going to expand the program to 30 participants for that year and again, if anybody wants more information about this study, we published this one in Frontiers for Rehabilitation Science. Happy to share that with anybody if you'd like. And but that's, leading up to this larger cohort that we're going to run 2020. And then obviously, COVID-19 changed everything and we had to adapt. So study 4 was the third independent study conducted in my dissertation in the spring of 2021 in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic. And essentially, at this point, the program was suspended indefinitely in March 2020, and to this day, and due to financial repercussions, the downtown YMCA where it was run has still not yet reopened its fitness center to the community. It was just too much of an impact, too much of a financial burden for them to recover from. So this is the 4th study in my dissertation, and I will discuss how, in order to provide this in-depth account of the lived experience of the TBI Health participants and carry out a needs analysis to support their physical activity behaviors in COVID, we used an interpretive phenomenological analysis approach to collect, analyze the data, and interpret how the participants interpreted their own experiences. And it facilitated the co-creation of meaning between the participants and the PI, myself, who was very much involved with the program and had a pre-established relationship with these individuals. We recruited a purposeful sample of all 16 participants for the 2019 cohort, including 12 participants and 4 mentors. I carried out the 16 individual interviews through Zoom video conferencing, and we used Smith's and colleagues' interpretive phenomenological analysis for the analyses, or IPA for the analyses. The 3 superordinate themes generated from 9 higher order theme concepts and 37 initial emergent themes or codes, included importance of physical activity after TBI, which included the benefits of PA after TBI, adapting PA to the pandemic, and desire and suggestions for an adapted PA program. Lasting impacts of the TBI Health program included the benefits of the TBI Health program, knowledge transfer from that program, and belonging to the TBI Health community. And the loss of resilience through the pandemic theme included the impact of COVID-19, loss of TBI Health program, and resilience after traumatic brain injury. In the importance of PA after TBI theme, one participant discussed that the idea that comes to mind is going for walks outside in green areas, in the middle of the trees with a mask. Of course, you have no choice. It's beneficial during the pandemic. Another participant in the lasting impacts of the TBI health program explained how, of course, now I'm less involved because of the pandemic, less involved in physical activity. But the physical, for me, I walk better, and it's thanks to the program. Another participant discussed in the loss of resilience through the pandemic that I found that we were like, it was difficult too, but we had a certain habit of how to organize ourselves and react to deal with the global pandemic. Now, this was really interesting because it was an individual, and he wasn't the only one, but he was discussing the ways in which how he felt as though he had an upper hand. And there was a really turning of tables, and how a lot of his significant others were turning to him to ask for advice about how to deal with the isolating kind of situation, because there were a lot of similarities, or a lot of that kind of mirrored what it's like to experience a traumatic brain injury and be isolated and no longer work, and the pandemic, which caused a lot of people to be isolated and not able to go back to work, and just bound in their own homes. So we identified that physical activity could be maintained through the pandemic for the participants and through knowledge transfer from the program itself. We also identified that the perceived sense of community that they developed from the TBI program contributed to their desire to give back, and through volunteer-based activities, okay? And there was this unanimous desire and emphasis placed on developing an outdoor walking group version of the TBI health program that really accentuated the value of physical activity participation beyond the kind of fitness center context. When synthesizing the evidence across studies 2, 3, and 4, we can identify relevant information, like I said before, about the time dose response relationship between different modes of physical activity, health-related outcomes across different phases of the program. Furthermore, the last study was conducted over a year after the TBI health program was suspended. So that really speaks to the type of lasting long-term impacts that such a program can have in people's lives. And on a practical level, our collaboration provided a place for the Quebec TBI Association members and their members to engage in physical activity, and the opportunity for the YMCAs to work with the new population. And it provided the research team with an opportunity to learn more about physical activity after traumatic brain injury. So this was truly a big successful initiative. Our findings suggested that peer-based physical activity programs, they have the potential to transcend rehab to the community with positive health behavior changes that extend beyond a formal intervention. And I'll just repeat that, the participants in that last study were interviewed a year after the program was suspended, over a year after the program was suspended. The inner mechanisms of this peer-based program and the experiences and outcomes across the participatory co-creation of the formal version of the TBI health program, they demonstrated best practice examples about how peer-based physical activity programs can lead to positive outcomes in the community. And similarly, findings from our participatory integrated knowledge transfer approach allowed us to adapt the program as it was being delivered, and identified an innovative approach to developing successful programs that may be scaled up in other contexts. So as discussed, the interpretive and participatory approaches are among the greatest strengths of this work, in my opinion. However, obviously the nature of our qualitative work made it difficult to establish causal relationships or generalize those findings to a larger population. Similarly, the sex and gender considerations that we undertook in the studies that really, began with those limitations that were identified in in the scoping review, they were important findings. But future research could benefit from taking a sex and or gender-based analytic approach to derive further knowledge about how physical activity programs can be optimally tailored for this population or others. In terms of future directions, peer-based community physical activity programs should be tested as an adjunct form of treatment upon discharge from the clinical setting, based on the potential that they can have to promote better long-term outcomes after traumatic brain injury. Findings from this work can be used to implement and evaluate the TBI health program in different fitness center-based contexts, and ideally with larger cohorts and randomized control trials that can can do a better job of evaluating the kind of impacts that this type of program can have. And based on our evidence about the outdoor group physical activity, an adapted version of the TBI Health program with outdoor walking group activities and telehealth supports may be tested for its feasibility and acceptability and effectiveness. And I'm very happy to share that I managed to convince the people I work with to do that outdoor walking group study. And it wasn't included in my dissertation, but it will be out. I've done a couple presentations about it now and working on the manuscript. So look forward to sharing that with you as well. In conclusion, my doctoral research provided a ton of comprehensive information and contributed to the state of knowledge about community-based physical activity and health promotion after moderate to severe TBI. And I'm very proud to share that TBI Health was established for, or by, is recognized for, and belongs to the individuals for whom it serves. And that members of that program still meet on a weekly basis to participate in outdoor group-based physical activity and volunteer-based activities in their community. Arguably the thing that I'm most proud of in all this work, that people are still doing those activities together and beyond any intervention or anything that we've done. So thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for their attention. I can't thank the people I've worked with enough over the past 4 years. My supervisors and research team from all the different universities, U of T, Concordia University, McGill, University of Montreal, Angela Colantonio, my primary supervisor, Bonnie Swain, my co-supervisor, Shane Sweet, Lindsay Duncan, Sean Wilkinson, colleagues, good friends, the community partners that we had, the YMCAs of Quebec, the Quebec TBI Association, the Quebec Association for Leisure People with Disabilities, Inclusive Society, Sport Canada, and of course SHIRT, without whom we wouldn't have been able to do any of this work. And you know, there are far more people that I can thank than I have time for, because the idea for this initiative, it began 10 years ago. And I'd like to thank everyone here for the time and attention. It's just a bunch of names, people who have been involved. And I very much look forward to your valuable questions and comments and feedback. So the references for this presentation are also included. I hope I haven't gone too much over time. Maybe what I'll do now is I will stop sharing my screen and I'll go back to gallery mode so that we can start discussing.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Do you have a preference on how we go about the discussion?
I'm absolutely fine with however people would like to ask questions, if they want to write them in the chat, or they'd like to turn on their videos and ask me directly, or if they'd like to keep their videos off and just, you know, ask the question discreetly, whatever you like.
Carolyn, did you have a question?
Sure, I can start. Enrico, thanks for that. Really great. Sorry, I was a few minutes late, but fantastic work. I'm really interested in maybe your thoughts and learnings from your PhD work around the applicability in a young population, and perhaps in a, you know, maybe broader impairment type of a population as well, and what your thoughts are, and what would need to be different.
That's a great question. Thanks so much, Carolyn, and it's a pleasure to see you. It's been a while, and I'm really happy to see you. So thanks for being here. I think that it is incredibly applicable to other populations, and I think that relates most to the underlying strengths of this program, which very much relate to the peer dynamics that were involved, and the kind of approach that we took that really reinforced people's autonomy and had that, you know, really autonomy focused kind of approach that allowed people to feel free in what they were doing. And I think that's certainly applicable to younger populations, and certainly applicable to, you know, other populations with disabilities. So definitely not just restricted to people with TBI. I think that those fundamental elements have been shown time and time again to be successful with a number of different populations. And I really think that they're at the crux of the success of this program. The program, and I finish with that, it was developed by the individuals who are involved with it. And when maintaining a certain ownership over a project like that, I think that's what contributed to the sustainability of it. Because I don't know of very many other programs that have continued on their own and are run by the people who are involved with the program. Like there are a number of people who are involved in that program over every year, every cohort, who still meet on a regular basis. They volunteer at that downtown YMCA, even though the fitness center is closed, and they go on outdoor group-based physical activity walks, and they volunteer in a program where they're paired with other individuals who have disabilities. And for example, individuals who can't see, or individuals who have a variety of different disabilities, but they're volunteering, they're involved in their community, and they're doing this outdoor group-based physical activity. And just to extend on that point, I think that despite the fact that we had this incredible resource, this downtown large YMCA fitness center, and we ran the program year after year, and it was a huge success, at the end of the day, to identify the ways in which the participants can still obtain similar benefits from just doing group-based physical activity in an outdoor context that doesn't necessarily require all the resources and the costs and everything that's involved with providing a large-scale program in a fitness center is tremendous, because it makes so many implications about, at the end of the day, what do people really need in order to be physically active and in order to be empowered to engage in these type of activities, And I think that those are some of the strongest findings. And I think that those findings can certainly be transferable to other populations and younger individuals. Absolutely.
Thanks, Enrico. And yeah, thinking about that, possibility for leadership and empowerment of youth that are in the programs as well. As we move forward to, develop and evaluate programs in a younger age group. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
So Enrico, maybe I'll build on that, or I have a question in regards to those relationships. So seeing them, even like nature being a facilitator of that activity, the social connection, the relationships being huge. But one of the things that we're working on ongoing within the Calgary Adapted Hub is the partnerships with our facilities. So maybe could you speak to a little bit around what was an important piece to building the relationship with the YMCA for yourself, and or maybe other organizations that you've been involved with? Maybe we'll harbor some of that wisdom too.
That's a great question, Ashley. And I think that at the end of the day, it's the business model. It's like when engaging partners to collaborate with you on these types of projects, I think that you need to be very explicit about how it can potentially benefit their center or the organization, how it aligns with their organization's values or guiding principles. Those were definitely two very important parts of establishing the relationship with the downtown Y, or the YMCA's of Quebec. It also helped that I did a lot of work with them throughout my studies. I had been working with the YMCA's of Quebec, so I had an established relationship with a lot of the people there. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, I think that, and it was one of the things I addressed in one of my last slides, was just in terms of like how we're able to fill these gaps, right? Because the Community TBI Association knew that physical activity was good for its participants, but they didn't have access to this kind of resource, this kind of large scale fitness center in a downtown setting, to provide their participants with with all of these resources to be involved in physical activity in this different context, a very normalizing kind of context, for lack of a better word. And similarly, the YMCA's was able to start being involved with a new population, a new special population. And if you know about the YMCA's or other not-for-profit organizations, they rely a lot on partnerships and funding that they receive from other organizations or the government or large sponsors, and so allowing them to develop this service for the TBI population was a really big incentive for potentially developing relationships with, for example, okay, and I'll just say this, the majority of causes, the etiology for the majority of moderate to severe traumatic brain injuries are motor vehicle accidents, motor vehicle collisions. And so in Quebec, particularly, because we have a no-fault insurance, automobile insurance system here, the SAC, the Quebec Automobile Insurance Company, they are flipping the bill for the rehabilitation costs and the indemnity for the majority of people who have moderate to severe TBIs, and the majority do not go back to full-time work. Not once in every year that I ran that program since 2017 was there ever a participant who worked. They were all relying on indemnities, and the majority of those indemnities were coming from the Quebec Automobile Insurance Company. So by alluding to the fact that building this program at the downtown YMCA might lead to potential future collaborations with large organizations like the Quebec Automobile Insurance Company, was a big incentive for the YMCA, because if they're running a program out of their center that is demonstrating these kinds of biopsychosocial benefits for people with TBI, if people with moderate to severe TBI in the community are participating more involved, they're volunteering, they're involved with a program that's improving their lives, and that if that can equate to a dollar sign and less cost for health-related services at any degree, whether it's mental health services or medical services, you name it, then that's an awfully big incentive for an organization like the Automobile Insurance Company to support such a program. So I think just things like that, like really identifying how a program can be beneficial for the organization that you're implementing it with, and being transparent about that, and just allowing people to connect the dots, and so they see the benefit of why it might be beneficial to develop that collaboration.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, and something you said straight off the hop there is that alignment with the values of the organizations, and so I think that's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a great question.
Enrico, I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit to, I know you said the YMCA hasn't opened again, and that would be a huge loss of resources. How the sustainability of the program has continued, and I know you haven't really been measuring this, but has there continued to be growth in the program now that it's moved to the outdoor walking program that it is?
Yeah, I mean, what's really nice is that I built in there was a social media page, for the program, the TBI Health Facebook page, and everyone who's been involved with the program year after year is a member of that Facebook page, and they frequently post photos, and it's become their method of communication. So I'm part of that group, as well as everyone on the research team, and so I get notifications from the postings on the group, and they continue to be involved with these outdoor group-based walking activities, but they now volunteer for this other program at the YMCA that is still running. It's not related to the fitness center, and it's not just bound to the downtown Y. It's through the YMCA's of Quebec, and it's this kind of like pairing of people with disabilities with like, you know, like a mentor, like a big brother kind of thing, and they have the opportunity to do these activities together. And what it's done is essentially it's transformed into this other way for participants in the program to give back to their community by volunteering, still being part of the YMCA's, but volunteering as mentors and like bigger brothers for like other people who have disabilities, and they all go out and they go to walks in different areas of the city, and they announce the time and the days of the walks on the Facebook page, and it's their way of communicating. So that's the evolution from what I've seen, and no, we haven't continued to measure that, but I'm incredibly proud of that. And I think, does that answer the question? But there was maybe something else in there that you were interested to know about. I guess maybe relating to the closure of the YMCA.
I guess, yeah, a little bit around the closure of the YMCA, but also perhaps growth in membership even within the Facebook page.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I think that it was really kind of surprising because, you know, I sincerely thought that the YMCA was everything, you know, like I thought it was really that resource was such an important part of the success of the program and the people involved. But obviously, you know, it was really, you know, as evidenced by the you know, it's transcending into a different kind of format. I think that the pillars, the crux of the fundamental aspects of that program that were so successful have to do with the peer-based activities, the community that was developed between those individuals, and there are a lot of things that are, you know, that are particularly for the TBI population, and I'm sure this can relate to a lot of other populations, but just the routine, you know, of having a set time twice a week. It was always 10 to 11:30, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. That just so happens to be the same days that they still walk with their, you know, with the evolution, the new program. And, you know, I think that taking a really progressive approach, so that was identified as a major, you know, a major benefit or an important part of the program, because, and beyond just learning about the like fundamentals of like training safely and efficiently and using the equipment at the Y, I'm also talking about learning the you know, the steps, the building blocks of interacting with a group, and the group dynamics of involved with working with people in the community. You know, there was a lot more. There was a lot more that went. It really went beyond outside the YMCA center and just a gym, and it had to do with, you know, like the way you conducted yourself and around others, and the way you communicated, and that's a really big issue with people with TBI, because there are a lot of behavioral issues with people with moderate severe TBI. Those executive functions that can be very, you know, severely impaired can lead to a lot of, you know, like behavioral problems that are really not conducive to running a big, large program in the community with people from all walks of life. You know, it was really challenging, you know, like running that program, and especially at the beginning, you know, because it was really important for people to learn how to behave and to respect others, and to you know, coexist with others in this large community context. So yeah, David, it's great to see you.
And it's great to be seen. Thank you for doing this. And sorry I'm late. I ran some adapted programs at a high school this afternoon. It was my first experience being in a high school in a long time.
Wow. What kind of programs?
We did wheelchair basketball, goal ball, sitting volleyball, blind running. Yeah.
That's
grade 11s. I have not worked with a grade 11, grade 10 group in a long time.
Oh, that must have been great fun.
It was. Yeah.
Excellent.
Anyways, I apologize for missing the start of your presentation.
No worries. I didn't even realize. So it seems like we have about 5 or a couple minutes left. if anybody would like to ask anything else about the program or the research, or I'd like to just tell everyone, to say thank you again for being here. It was really a pleasure, and I was very, very happy to be involved with the Calgary Adapted Hub and give a talk today about some of the work I feel very fortunate to have done over the past 4 years.
Well, it's like we haven't done a ton of work in the TBI population, so this is important information for us. And we're hoping to connect better with the YMCAs here in Calgary too in the future. So this is, again, very timely.
Excellent. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And if ever there's anything I can, be of assistance with, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Will we see you in Alberta for the conference in March, early March, Enrico?
I think that's going to be pretty tough because
Okay.
I'm going to be away in March for the International Brain Injury Association conference in Dublin this year.
I'll see you there.
Oh, are you going to be there too? That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. I plan to be at the pre-con. I'm going to be giving a talk about sex and gender considerations.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And then I'm going to be discussing some of the work in the walking study that we did after.
Fantastic.
So yeah, well, that would be great to see you in Dublin. That would be a lot of fun.
Terrific.
Thanks so much, Enrico.
Thank you.
Thank you, Enrico.
Yes, thank you, Enrico. Good to see you.
If there are no further questions, then I think we'll just give everybody a few minutes of their day back.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. I wish everybody an incredible holiday season. All the best. Lots of health, good fortune, and a great happy new year. So
Yeah,
thank
you
you
too.
again so much, everybody.
Okay.
Same to you. See you soon.
Bye.
Happy
Take care.
holidays.
Bye-bye. You as well.